This is our Great Leadership Project. It was done by Braylon Caudill, Madeline Downey, Hunter Maw, and Taylor O'Malley. We chose to do our project on Steve Jobs.
So this slide talks about the life of Steve Jobs. He was born on February 24th of 1955, and then was put up for adoption and adopted by Paul and Clara Jobs. He then passed away October 5th, 2011 at the age of 56 in his own home of some medical complications. One of my favorite quotes from Steve Jobs that kind of describes his leadership mentality is "Stay hungry and stay foolish." This really just drives him to always look for what's next and always keep pursuing on down this road of trying to find the next best thing, and to always just keep chasing that.
This video will give us some background on Steve Jobs' career and different positions that he held.
I was lucky. I found what I loved to do early in life. Woz and I started Apple in my parents' garage when I was 20. We worked hard, and in 10 years, Apple had grown from just the two of us in a garage into a $2 billion company with over 4,000 employees. We just released our finest creation, the Macintosh, a year earlier, and I just turned 30. And then I got fired. How can you get fired from a company you started? Well, as Apple grew, we hired someone who I thought was very talented to run the company with me. And for the first year or so, things went well. But then our visions of the future began to diverge, and eventually we had a falling out. When we did, our board of directors sided with him. And so at 30, I was out, and very publicly out. What had been the focus of my entire adult life was gone, and it was devastating. I really didn't know what to do for a few months. I felt that I had let the previous generation of entrepreneurs down, that I had dropped the baton as it was being passed to me. I met with David Packard and Bob Noyce and tried to apologize for screwing up so badly. I was a very public failure, and I even thought about running away from the Valley. But something slowly began to dawn on me. I still loved what I did.
The most important quote from Steve Jobs is when he said, "Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do." So Steve Jobs, he actually lived out this quote. He faced many setbacks and challenges like dropping out of college and even being fired from his own company. But because he loved what he did and he had a passion for his work, he was committed and determined to overcome these obstacles by starting over and continuing to pursue his goals. He demonstrated resilience by bouncing back from those failures instead of accepting defeat, and he actually used them as opportunities to learn, grow, and ultimately succeed.
And to talk about Jobs' leadership style, Walter Isaacson quoted, "Steve was somebody who is not known as a collaborative leader. If you read about him, you'll see that he was strong and tough and often unkind." Some big ideas that Steve Jobs had about leadership: he always had a vision, and he was really great at being able to articulate that so the people around him could understand it, and they were all working towards that one common goal. And he did a great job of getting a consensus on a common vision between him and his team.
So this clip is going to talk about the turning point to great leadership that Steve Jobs really implemented at Apple, and where he was able to take back over and redesign the company to his vision and really make it the powerhouse that we know today.
Next generation operating system on Next technology.
Selling Next to Apple, oh, that's sheer genius. You just have to say, wow.
Steve Jobs returned to the company he helped create and became interim CEO.
And so there began what I think is the greatest turnaround in the history of corporate America.
his finest hour, really. And he hauled ass and brought things back together again around a cohesive vision because he came in as the Rainmaker.
He called a big meeting in this big meeting room, and he says, you know what's wrong with this company? And everyone's too scared to answer, no one will say anything, and he goes, the products suck. They've got no sex in them.
The comeback and
Steve Jobs held many job positions throughout his career. He opened multiple different companies, and he persevered through all of his hardships, through being fired from Apple and having to go to different jobs. One of the first big important qualities about Steve Jobs is that he loved his work. He always wanted to help his team succeed, even when he was fired from Apple. After he was fired from Apple, he created the company Next, and he created Pixar, which their first big blockbuster movie was Toy Story. After Next was bought by Apple, he came back and he took over, and he did everything he could to help his company be successful. Another really big quality of his is under the law of respect. He respected his staff, he listened to their input, and he always listened when they told him that he was wrong. He showed courage, doing what was right for his company, and putting his ego aside. He added value through paving a way for modern technology and product development, through creating different products instead of doing what everyone else was doing. Another quality that Jobs embodied was the law of intuition. Again, while everyone was designing the same things, he was innovative and he was finding new ways to create different things that no one had come up with before. This is how the iPod Touch came to be, this is how the iPhone came to be, and this is how the MacBook came to be. When he returned to Apple, he knew his company was struggling, so he did everything that he could to help them. He also always listened to others. He did not have different committees there. Instead, he put individuals in charge of different aspects. Then he held 3-hour meetings once a week to discuss what was happening within his company. He also worked on ideas to solve problems and create problems with other people. He did not do this alone.